14th day of February 2024. 2024. What's going on here? I'm already in position. Ain't that a sweetie? I'm Dana. I'm also known as the Nuclear Proctologist.org. You can call in at 709-589-4406. Hope everybody had a great day. Except for nuclear industry, of course. Scumbag nuclear industry. I've got a poll tonight. The poll is the International Atomic Energy Agency's Director General, Rafael Grossi, a supervillain? It occurred to me that Rafael Grossi is an actual supervillain. And today, all the headlines on Fukushima were about Rafael Grossi going around telling all the communities everything is safe, don't believe the fear mongers and everything else. Everything is filtered. And let me turn that. That's probably a bit loud, is it? Everything is filtered and blah blah blah. Crazy Rafael Grossi. So I decided, because I was so fixated on every story today, that I had to do up a little picture just so I can get past it. Unfortunately, that didn't work. The only thing better is if we burn him at the stake. There should be 1 million protesters everywhere he goes. That man should be haunted for the rest of his life by the victims, loved ones. So there's 6 or 7 billion people should be haunting that. What a despicable creature going around telling everybody Fukushima never happened. No, nothing happened. Nothing got out. Everything is in the tanks. Well, what about the 30 million one-ton bags? How come nobody's asking them about that? Because your media is actually insane. They're actually insane. So, like, everything was in the tanks. Then how do you explain that? The destroyed reactors. How can you have everything in a tank when the buildings don't even exist after 6 days? How can you have everything in the tanks when you picked up 30 million one-ton bags and a lousy 3%? So, like, this is an interesting equation that sometimes gets the better of me. Yesterday was one of those days. I mean, there's 865,000 extra cancers. And so the victims' families should be asking Rafael Grossi, why are they pretending they're in the fuel pool of a building that don't exist? There's so many questions that should be asked, and it's just heartbreaking nobody's asking it. The International Atomic Energy admitted in June 2nd, 2011, there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation, that their standards at the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, are based on benefits. There is no benefits to man-made radiation. So we were covering a story last night, or the night before, about a police car that was put into the museum in Nami, which is 7 kilometers from the ongoing nuclear meltdowns, which is really interesting. And I was looking for a story of 42 communities tossed out the records, and I couldn't find it last night, and I hunted through my pile, and I re-imported it all, so now I know where to find it again. And trust me, that wasn't easy, but it bugged me so much that I found it. Many of the 42 entities tossed out records from the 2011 quake. So there's a museum with 120,000, 160,000 pieces of the nuclear meltdown, the earthquake, the tsunami, right? And 7 kilometers away, but they didn't have any room for the records. So why wouldn't you, if you're going to have a record, a museum where they spent $50 million, by the way, and they actually, James Lucer pointed out the other night in the comments, and I forgot about it, was that they actually have a 1-ton bag in the museum, for goodness sakes. The municipality in Iwate and Miyagi in Fukushima Prefecture reported throwing out these records because there was no unified rules on their preservation. But why would you not preserve this stuff? Why would you throw away the records following the nuclear meltdown of all the volunteers? It's just like, and it doesn't make any sense. The documents that have already been discharged included notifications from the central government and a list of names of volunteer workers. So why wouldn't you keep something like that? Obvious reasons. The Miyagi Prefecture said the preservation period had expired. Yeah, so why didn't you just renew it? Of course, Miyagi Prefecture is a nuclear wasteland. Lydiate Village in Fukushima Prefecture said, we don't have the space to preserve all the documents. But you're the government. You make space. You rent space. You waste money. That's what you do. And you have endless places there that you're not using. You could have stored the documents. Such a betrayal, eh? Such an insane, like, Chernobyl, somebody stole those documents. They disappeared. Nobody's ever seen them after. It most likely was a big book burning, right? But here was a story where they actually went to cardboard boxes containing official documents related to the 2011 Great Eastern Japan earthquake and tsunami are temporarily kept at, you can go read the story. They probably took it down a long time ago, knowing these parasites. The survey also asked the 42 municipalities about whether they have documents they plan to discharge after the preservation period expires. 12 municipalities replied they have such documents, and 17 answered they had not yet, and I couldn't tell you the rest of it. But I found it, which is incredible because they got 120 to 160,000 objects at the museum that they spent $50 million, and it's just a building. It's not even a nice building. It's just a building. And he spent $50 million. And the only stuff they kept there is the stuff to use to manipulate the visitors who come there. They're not going to put the documents there. It's just, that's nuclear though. Everything about nuclear is how much of a scumbag can they be? And then that's wrote, you have 10 things, 10 ways of doing something. What's the worst way we can do it? And that's what nuclear is going to choose every time. It has no right to be on your planet. You have no idea if you're new to this topic, but you need to learn. International Atomic Energy Agency says last month's Fukushima leak was minor incident. Simple Simon says. And they always show you these pictures, these useless, stupid pictures. So, all day long has been bombardment. Last night, this morning, this afternoon, tonight, has been a bombardment of the stories of Rafael Grossi. He's committed to monitoring the Fukushima water release to the very last drop. So the official story is that nothing got out of the buildings. Nothing got out of these buildings. I know what you're saying. You're like, oh no, Dana, the buildings are destroyed. Now you shut your pie hole. That's not true. The International Atomic Energy says nothing got out of the buildings. Everything, and what did is in the tanks. The problem with the story, though, is the tanks were all built at the same time. And in 2013, the tanks were all full.
The Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle of an underground aquifer. Deep beneath the ground, the site is rapidly being overwhelmed by water. Beneath the surface, water flows downhill and into the basement of the damaged reactor buildings. There it is contaminated with high levels of radiation. To stop the groundwater flowing on into the nearby ocean, engineers are building an underground barrier. But that is causing the groundwater level to rapidly rise. It's now so high the water will soon reach the surface. Then it will start flowing overground into the sea. This week, the company that owns Fukushima, TEPCO, made this disturbing admission.
We understand that this water discharge is beyond our control, and we do not think the current situation is good.
Outside experts say it's now clear TEPCO is incapable of handling the cleanup at Fukushima. It's time for the Japanese government to step in. The situation is already beyond what TEPCO can handle, he says. If it were possible to take proper measures, they would have done it already. It's not as if TEPCO is refusing to do what they can. They're doing everything they can, but there are no perfect solutions. Even if the government does step in, it's not clear what it can do. The only other solution is to pump out the contaminated groundwater and put it in storage tanks. But after just 2 years, the site is already jammed with more than 1,000 giant tanks. Most of them are already full up. At least 400 tons of new water pours into the site every day, and it's going to continue for years and years. Fukushima's water crisis has only just begun. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News in Tokyo.
So, that's 2013 from the BBC, the mouthpiece of the United Kingdom government. And they're saying the tanks were all full in 2013 from pumping water up from the contaminated aquifer under the site. Not under the reactors, but under the site. And it's contaminated, and the TEPCO has no control whatsoever. And there was 1,000 large tanks in 2000, plus large tanks in 2013. They were almost all full. So clearly they're lying to you now for the last 10 years. That's as clear as day. So when Rafael Grossi says they're committed to monitoring the water release to the last drop, that's a supervillain, right? That's a narcissist. UN body will engage with Japan's discharge process, and they're claiming nothing got out of the buildings, and that whatever got out of the buildings is in the tanks. And today there's just story after story of Rafael Grossi drinking his Perrier water, sitting in absolute luxury in a $5,000 suit, flying around the world at first class, and staying in the best hotels and eating best foods, and cutting the throats of everybody everywhere he goes. Like a real-life demon, an actual demon. To treat a discharge from again, you can't treat something when you, like, if it was true, they would treat it everywhere, right? It's just simply, how is Fukushima the only site that does it? Because you can't. Your filter is so radioactive after 20 minutes, you can never get in the building again. Is safe, the International Atomic Chief says on his visit. 3 days of running around telling everybody, oh no, don't go away, hey, don't listen. Everything is God. He's a narcissist. How do we get him held accountable is the big question. He's got to be held accountable. We can't let this despicable sack of doo-doo get away with it. International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi watched the treated radioactive water being mixed with massive amounts of seawater and examined a water sampling station. Now, Grossi is saying he's going to have their own laboratories there. They're going to check it and double check it and triple check right to the last drop. By the way, Japan is the third biggest donor to the International Atomic Energy Agency. So imagine how much money they're throwing their way every single year in order to be that number. And he's a vile... Rafael Grossi, if you ever look up his history, He's a vile person, eh? The Associated Press, which is International Atomic Energy Agency, which is not a regulatory agency, right? They got nothing to do with a regulatory agency. Satisfied with the Fukushima water release process all day long, non-stop. In line with what we were expecting, said Grossi. And Grossi was front and center all day long. Everywhere you go, every story today, as Rafael Grossi said. And there was no debate, there was no other narratives, it was Rafael Grossi says, and so shut your fucking mouth. Rafael Grossi said so. So he talks about the discharges in the water after treating it and diluting it with seawater on August the 24th. So to say in August the 24th of last year is the first time anything was released into the ocean. The buildings are completely gone. Everything was released after 6 days, except for a fraction of what was there originally. Because there is China sins, we're still hemorrhaging, right? But, I mean, the damage. What I'm trying to say is damage was significantly done by day 6. International Atomic Energy Agency chief affirms minor nature of Fukushima plant leak. And again, they're showing you that pictures. So it's very difficult to have any context because it's the same pictures everywhere you go. But when you look at this picture here and I try to tell you that nothing got added there, you're going to tell me to shut up. Right? If you're sensible anyway. And then to treat it, how are you going to treat something when it's already gone? To treat it. Someone should treat Rafael Grossi with formaldehyde or something. So, like, if that's a 190-foot building, then I'm going to retire right here, right now. That's it. My final show is right this second. If you can prove this is a 190-foot building, I'll retire right now. I'll take down every video. I'll take down the nuclear proctologist. I'll burn the Zodiac. And I'll never open my mouth again. I'll find Gene Simmons' doctor and get my tongue cut out. I know whose tongue I like to cut out. And blue is one of the colors he likes to wear. If there's anybody who deserves a tongue cut out, it's that disgusting maggot right there, that despicable. That's not even a human. That's the furthest thing from a human. If you checked his DNA, it would probably come out as a turd or something. The evaluations from the plant and like Raphael, you parasite. He's a real parasite. He's the definition of a parasite. The buildings don't exist, and he's going around telling everybody, "Oh no, everything good." Fukushima disaster 13 years on, challenges in cleaning up after the nuclear meltdown. I think they're the only story that didn't mention Bozo the Clown himself. International Atomic Energy Agency chief stresses further monitoring of Fukushima nuclear wastewater discharge. You know he's a narcissist as soon as you look at him. He's a lunatic, and the people that are publishing his media, how the fuck do we hold him in control? How do we hold him accountable for what they're doing to us? This is not their planet, okay? This is your planet. This is our planet. This is not their fucking planet to destroy. The treated discharges from Japan's ruined. That's the first time I actually heard that word, ruined. It's usually crippled or something, right? Fukushima nuclear plant is safe. It's safe, Dana. The International Atomic Energy said it's safe, Dana. Yeah, I know, but have a look at them. Does it look safe to you? It's such an evil, despicable, hateful. Mari Yamaguchi. International Atomic Energy Agency is committed to monitoring the Fukushima release to the last drop. He's an actual demon. Like, that guy is a demon. Every story today, International Atomic Energy Agency chief stresses full transparency in releasing the water from Fukushima. If there's full transparency, then why don't you show everybody that picture and tell them that nothing got out? No, that makes too much sense, Dana. So is the International Atomic Energy Director General, Rafael Grossi, a supervillain? I mean, he must be. We got a poll asking the question, so what else could he be if he's not a supervillain? Is the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General? This is just a corporation. A supervillain. This is a supervillain. He's denying that anything happened. He's denying that anybody was ever hurt. He's denying that anything got out of the buildings. He's denying that they even had a nuclear meltdown, because otherwise then you got to admit something got out of the buildings. The thing is, we've come across so many of these supervillains, but what Rafael Grossi is doing is just a whole different. It's just a whole different level of scumbags. I'm going to just show you a couple of headlines to try to give you some context, right? Of how crazy the story is. Because when you go backwards, you start realizing the whole thing is crazy. Just bear with me. And everything screams insane. Every facet of the story screams, this is madness. Let's try this much. So Rafael Grossi said there's nothing to worry about. Everything's great. I'm Rafael Grossi. You don't want me to pay for my supper. I'm the Director General of International Atomic Energy. You got to give me everything free. I'm Rafael Grossi. Concerns arising at the Fukushima plant. 16,000 workers have quit. These are not workers. These are the homeless, the destitute, the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language. Does it sound like they got it under control, right? Inhaling just one radioactive hot particle. There's 20,000 particles of iodine-131 per liter rained on Canada and the United States. Particles are hot, see? They're like supervillains, like Rafael Grossi. And one hot particle, you can put 200 million particles on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. So how are you going to figure out if you got one in you or not? And you better start learning this stuff if you're not familiar with it. Columbia medical professor inhaling just one hot particle can cause a cancer or illness or diseases or autoimmune deficiencies and injuries and illnesses. Officials admit deadly meltdown cover-up. Fukushima. TEPCO president, we lied about the meltdown. Somebody should tell that to Rafael Grossi. It's a cover-up. If anybody knows about cover-ups, it's the International Atomic Energy Agency, isn't it? It's an unprecedented nuclear disaster, bad as it gets. It's an unpardonable breach of trust. And that is what the International Atomic Energy Agency is doing. That's an unpardonable breach of trust, right? Japan Foreign Minister, stop claiming the food is safe. 2011. Rafael, no, that's conspiracy. Everything I'm telling you, by the way, according to Rafael Grossi, is not true. All the evidence I'm providing, none of it is true, unless Rafael Grossi says it is. Worse, which is, I'm making a mistake that I warn everybody about all the time. You got to blame the nuclear industry, which the International Atomic Energy is one of the leading scumbags behind it. They couldn't tell the lies they're telling without the nuclear industry backing them up, because you can't have contradictions, right? So they all got to agree on the lie before they can tell the lie. Nuclear expert, worst case scenario was abandoned Tokyo. Bad enough, like if you evacuate a spot because of nuclear fallout, you don't be stupid and go back, okay? But 240 kilometers away, you're going to abandon 36 million people who are going to abandon Tokyo. They should have. They refused to acknowledge. The only reason they didn't abandon Tokyo is because he said reactor 4 didn't melt down. But reactor 3 melted down, and it's much worse than number 4 because it's a plutonium mixed oxide site reactor. Stab you in the back, stab you in the face, stab you in the heart, stab you in the guts. That's what they do, right? Japan Times column. Japan Times. One of the biggest medias in Japan. As the public, possibly worldwide, sickens over time, don't worry about it. Rafael Grossi will show up and cover it all up. Debris from near Fukushima nuclear plants is being ground up and burned in other parts of Japan. November 8, 2012. These are all of these headlines, not headlines you could have predicted pre-Fukushima nuclear meltdown. If I had suggested any of this pre-Fukushima nuclear meltdown, I would have been laughed off the internet. Like, no, that'll never happen. The nuclear industry's too stoic, Dana. They didn't ever let that happen. Come on, boy. ABC News, never-ending disaster at Fukushima. The International Atomic Energy Agency stumbling helplessly from one crisis to the next. New York Times, alarming reality of Fukushima Daiichi. The plant is faced with a new crisis. TEPCO is clearly just hanging on day by day. This is 2013 in April. And I played a video there earlier from August 2013, a few months later. Which TEPCO admit they have no control over the site. They have no control. What's going in the tanks are built to pump up from the aquifers. There is no filtration system mentioned in that. And that we show the evidence constantly that the Riva system didn't work, the ELP system didn't work, the Kurian system didn't work, the Siri system, we couldn't filter anything. There is no filtration system. All the atoms are the same size, for goodness sakes. So when you talk about the Siri system is going to filter cesium-137, but it's the same size as the uranium or the plutonium or the americium or the neptunium or the strontium. And these are the bad isotopes, like the oh shit, man. That's the oh shit stuff. You're eating that stuff. That's oh my goodness, you're in real trouble. All of them are horrifying. But these are terrible isotopes. All of these are worse than cesium. And you hear about cesium. Cesium, nasty isotope. But the uranium, the plutonium, the americium, the neptunium, the strontiums, the curium isotopes are way worse than the incredible dangerous cesium-137 isotope, which you hear constantly. That's the one they're shoving down everybody's gob, right? If they actually mention any at all. Fukushima worker wanted to escape from the nuclear plant, but I feared the International Atomic Energy Agency might hurt me. At parties, the International Atomic Energy Agency forced us to eat radioactive mushrooms and radioactive bee larvae gathered from inside the evacuation zone. The International Atomic Energy Agency called my mother to tell her I was in trouble. That's how the headline should actually read, because that's who's behind the evil. Work at Fukushima plant to go on for 10,000 years. Rafael Grossi says he's going to be there to the last drop. And he probably will be, because I don't think he's human. I would imagine he is going to live for 10,000 years. But when he dies, I'm going to wherever he died. I'm going to stick a stake in his heart to make sure he doesn't come back. Let's try a few more. The whole thing is insane. Here's other headlines Rafael Grossi's never going to tell you, or the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the nuclear industry. Anonymous U.S. government nuclear expert. Fukushima radiation levels are astronomical. It's 2014. Nothing is containing the release of the radioactivity. It's unmitigated. It's on shield. Monitor detects 100,000 sieverts per hour. So 3 sieverts is a lethal dose to a human. What is 100,000 sieverts, I wonder? What kind of dose is that to the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society? How many people would chip in if it was legal to take Rafael Grossi and throw him in on top of that? Probably everybody on the planet, right? 100,000 sieverts. So, like, it's like if you were hit beyond a building and you poked your head out and looked at it, it would kill you right on the spot. It's like Medusa, but it's even deadlier. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose to a human, for goodness sakes. 100,000 sieverts. Fukushima Unit 1 and 2 exhaust stacks. Reactor 1 and Reactor 2, the exhaust stacks. Think of that statement, by the way. Exhaust stack. They're hemorrhaging radiation all the time, right from the fuel pools, because they're all splitting atoms. Fukushima Reactor Unit 1 and 2 exhaust stacks, high radiation doses rate in the area had measured over 10 sieverts an hour. So these are lethal doses from the exhaust stack, but apparently people are working in the reactors, Dana. Yeah, but they're not. Now, there actually is a video of people working on the reactor, but it's fake. And there's only one video I've ever seen in all these years, and it's by BBC, and it's fake. And it's the strangest video, and we're going to play it next week. It's the strangest video you're ever going to see. It's really something. And they've done it 4 times. There's 4 different videos where they use the exact same clip, but nobody else on the planet would dare use that clip. And it was at Reactor 4. Wait till you see it next week on Sunday. I'll play it for you on Sunday. Fukushima reactor site engulfed by steam. Well, something like steam. Coming from an unknown source at Unit 3. Unknown source. You know, they got multiple nuclear meltdowns. You don't suppose it could be the meltdown, China syndrome. Continuously wafting through the air and work to remove the rubble was suspended. I actually got the video of that, don't I? Bear with me. I'm a sucker for punishment. Let me see if I can find it. Where would I put that to? I don't know, Dana. Oh, I know. I bet you I can find it. Give me a minute. So these are lethal doses coming out of the ground is what he's talking about. Wow, I got it. I got it, Dana got it. So this was a video. This was live footage from TEPCO's website, 2011, on the 6th month and the 14th day, so January, February, March, April, May, June the 16th, or June the 14th, 2011. Now this was originally, I believe, this was from their YouTube channel, and this was at 100 or 40 times the regular speed. And so I'm going to speed it up because it's a fairly long video till we start to get the... Now you see the plume coming up, that's reactor 3. But watch what happens. This is a rate. This was 10 sieverts per hour in 6 places. But the Geiger counters only went to 10 sieverts. But what you end up seeing now is the whole site disappears in a lethal dose. Now remember, this is at 40 times the regular speed. I'm going to slow it down quite a bit. So this went on for a long time. They abandoned the site many times because this is this China syndrome hitting water. And then water expands 1,200 feet per liter. And then the steam that's coming up is so lethal that if you walk through that plume, that's instant death right there. And the whole site eventually disappeared. They had to abandon the site because of this, what they try to call steam, right? But it's not steam at all. TEPCO confirms the steam came up from underground at reactor number 1, was 20% more than in June at 4.7 sieverts. And 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. It might be easier. Now, we know it was 10 sieverts in 6 places coming out of the ground. That's from the China syndrome from reactor 1 and reactor 2. And whatever didn't burn off, because reactor 2 liquefied, but it burnt constantly for several days, the fuel pool in the reactor cores, as it went down into the earth. Then it split the earth open in multiple places. Just let me hang on, let me double check. Humanity as a whole has literally never experienced something like Fukushima. No, like, we've never had a full reactor meltdown. Fukushima is 4, and each building had 2 fuel pools, but around a total of 8 to 10 reactor cores or more. And so each of these reactor cores are equal to about 1,000 Chernobyls. So the final number is around 4,000 Chernobyls, 4,200 or something, I believe. Just give me a second, see if I can find those reports of the steam coming out of the ground, because we got a bunch of it. Will help tell that story. But Rafael Grossi says nothing happened. Everything is okie dokie. More champagne. He's staying in the $5,000, $10,000 night hotel rooms. He's eating $1,000 meals. He's flying all over the country, and he's cutting humanity's throat for United Nations, which hates you anyway. They hate you, right? And whether you want to or not, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to gut up. You're going to have to stand up to these strawmen, these hang on, I know I'm close. I know I'm close. Bear with me, bear with me. Have some patience. It's not easy being me. The hardest thing in life, I was a commercial diver, was 2 marathons a day on the human body. And I do typically 100 days straight. And so the first week is pretty. If you need a cup of tea, the tender's job is to get it to you. If your clothes is wet, the tender's job is to dry it and hang it up. Because you can't do it yourself. And I used to do that, and at one point I ran 10 dive boats and a barge for a couple of years. And I dove 6 hours a day. And I trained every crew on each boat. So I had to read the manuals on every single boat. Every boat got a different radar. Every boat got a different sounder. Every boat got a different VHF. Every boat got different hydraulics. Every boat got different steering. Every boat got different compressors for your tanks or your hookah systems. Or typically you got boat up on the boat anyway, right? Every boat needs their maintenance on time. And I don't know how many people didn't even know how to change oil on an engine. They were afraid to try. And so I always made people feel that wasn't unusual and just come ask me. And I'm happy to help you. And I still worked my 6 hours a day on the ocean floor. And I still had to do all their checks. I had to order in all their whatever they wanted. There were shoes or jackets or dive gear or whatever they're going to need. Lots of them couldn't pay their bills on time because they were on the ocean, so we used to organize all of that. And ship to shore used to cost $1 a minute, and it's just madness. But it was the only way, because I knew eventually that the industry would fall apart and become quotas, right? So the only way to keep the job was to keep everybody on the ocean. You had 300 people dependent on you on shore, right? The crews would come and go every 2 weeks, and there was no one to replace me, so I ended up staying out there. And eventually that just became life, right? Here we go, I found it. Thank goodness I don't have to bore you with those stupid dive stories anymore. The workers say the ground under Fukushima plant is cracking and that the radioactive steam is coming up and that the melted core may be moving out of the buildings. Near the reactors, there's a lot of cracks in the ground. The steam is coming up somewhere. Sometimes we have detected 10 sieverts an hour at 6 places. 10 sieverts, 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. The steam at 10 sievert. But the story is those Geiger counters only reach 10 sieverts. So lethal dose is coming out of the ground. Like green starlight, highly contaminated marine snow. There's not marine snow. There's no such thing as a marine snow. Highly contaminated so-called marine snow covered the seafloor for at least 2,000 kilometers from Fukushima by July 2011. So from Fukushima, 2,000 kilometers out, the floor was covered in highly radioactive contamination. Japan's secrecy law passes the lower house. November 25th, 2013. They got into fist fights and everything on the floor over that one, right? Prison for telling the truth. We're on the path to a fascist state. Fear the Fukushima cover-up is going to worsen. Japan's more powerful lower house of parliament approved a state secrecy bill. Critics says it might sway authorities to withhold more information about the nuclear power plants. Well, Rafael Grossi is basking in that, isn't he? And protesting the secrecy law is an act of terrorism. Think about that statement. Trying to have a debate is an act of terrorism. No dissenting voices allowed. Japan government promotes the idea that you're racist if you avoid the Fukushima product, the radioactive death food. The entire process is echoes of George Orwell. Well, that's what Rafael Grossi, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is doing, right? That's not echoes of George Orwell. George Orwell couldn't come up with anything that crazy. A nuclear activist to be constantly spied on. Constantly. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every phone call, every text message is recorded and stored, and each administration has access to the whole bloody thing. So they must have nightmares when they're reading mine. Japan enacts a state secrecy law late Friday night amid a revolt. It criminalizes investigative journalism. Terrorism defines as imposing one's opinions on others. I must be a terrorist in that case. I'm a good terrorist, not a bad terrorist now. Because there is such thing as a good terrorist. I'm proof. And there's lots of terrorists out there to call nuclear experts. There's enough terrorism out there to... Let me see what kind of mess I got here. I didn't have the heart to read through Rafael Grossi's stories and that. I just basically showed you the headlines and then I ignored the stories. Because I've been reading it all day and my temper was getting wound up. And I came to the realization that I probably better not. Read the stories because I get pretty cranky sometimes when it comes to... when it comes to the truth, right? I'm not very tolerant to the nuclear industry, let's put it that way. That's why they invented wood chippers, as far as I can tell. Hot material with 7 billion atoms a kilogram of cesium. 7 billion. 7 billion atoms. Let's do the math on that. That sounds like a lot of fun. 15 kilometers from the nuclear plant. Most likely came from Unit 3. 7 billion becquerels, 7 billion atoms a kilogram. Okay, so let's do the math on that, Dana. All right. I wasn't going to, but now you brought it up. Is the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi a supervillain? Why, yes, he is, Dana. Thank you very much. So 7 billion. Right, 7 billion becquerels a kilogram. These are crazy numbers. So 7 billion atoms per kilogram. Eek, right there, is it? Yeah. So we got to multiply that by 66.6 to get a square meter. Quite the coincidence, you got 3 sixes there, Nuke. That's 466 billion atoms per square meter. Per square meter. $466 billion atoms per square meter. And over 7,500 atoms of plutonium, americium. Bloop, bloop. Experts find 45 microsieverts, so 45 times 750 for atoms, near a school zone, 90 times higher than Chernobyl's threshold. They'll grow, they'll be okay. They turned into Spider-Man and the Hulk, didn't it? Government's answer to protecting the children. So when your government turns on the children, like the Japs have done, then it's okay to call them Japs, right? The Japs' answer to protecting children in Fukushima from radioactive fallout: wear long-sleeve shirts while at school. That sounds exactly what you would expect from the despicable, disgusting Japs, right? The Kuroshio current could rapidly carry the radioactivity into the interior of the Pacific Ocean. Well, the evidence is so easy for a journalist. The journalist could have easily... let me explain it another way. See, and that's what they want. They want you to think about flowing into or leaking into the ocean, so to speak, right? So it covers the whole planet in 19.5 days, 468 hours, which means the whole ocean is immediately covered in just a couple of weeks. New York Times exposes a gleeful radiation expert trying to calm the public with bananas. And every time I hear the word bananas, I'm going to punch a nuclear scientist's lights out. The nuclear industry propaganda about low-level radiation is absolute rubbish, says a physician who taught at Harvard. It's all about the internal emitters. Radioactive rain caused 130 schools to close in Korea, yet Korea says there was no radioactive fallout to this administration. But that administration in 2011 closed 130 schools because of radioactive fallout. And the current administration got everybody protesting tritium. And the current president denied Fukushima even melted down before he was elected as the president, right? He was a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor in South Korea. Human embryos in the United States likely bioaccumulating radioactive iodine, cesium, and strontiums. Japanese safety standards on radiation levels for children are unconscionable. May 2nd, 2011, U.S. medical group blasted Tokyo radiation policy on the Fukushima children. So there was dissenting voices, right, the first few years, but yet nobody come out and blatantly said the reactor fuel pools are gone. Quite the opposite, right? Fukushima consequences are unlimited in space, time, and social dimensions. It doesn't have a limit. Tokyo samples had radioactivity levels higher than Chernobyl exclusion zone. It's a very, very high level of contamination, even as far south as Tokyo. Well, we know Korea had to close 130 schools because of radioactive fallout, 1,100 kilometers away. Nursery school, Geiger counters nearly off the scale. At nursery schools, I can honestly say I've never heard of something like that before, pre-Fukushima. And the topsoil had already been replaced. Like, if you're replacing topsoil at a school, then it's unconscionable to send the children to that school. It's unconscionable to open the school again. Because clearly the school is completely... what they want you to believe is just shine, right? Just rays and stuff like that, that there's no physical particulates or particles. And so their whole ideology is based upon microsieverts and millisieverts, which is energy, instead of Becquerels, which is atomic decays. Because the Becquerel is a physical isotopes where you can actually inhale them and they can sequester in your muscles, your organs, and your bones. 27,000 atoms a kilogram cesium in a kindergarten near the west coast of Japan, 200 kilometers from the meltdown. 27,000, so let's do the math on that. 27,000 per kilogram. So you're going to multiply that by 66.6 to get a square meter. That's 1.8 million a square meter where the children are. 200 kilometers from the meltdown on the west coast at a kindergarten. So that community should be evacuated immediately, see? So everything, in other words, 200 kilometers in any direction should have been evacuated permanently. So why would you want nuclear on your planet? They're not going to evacuate you, and so that means everybody's going to get poisoned. Do you get it? University radiation test finds 56.9 microsieverts an hour at elementary school, 20.8 at a government building, 20 times higher than official numbers. So you got to multiply 56.9 by 750 to get a baseline. It's going to be way worse than that. So 56.9, Dana. Get with the program here. 56.9 by 750 atoms is 42,000 counts at an elementary school drain. These are stunning numbers. Why would you, like, you're talking about far away. There's no excuses to use microsieverts or millisieverts. You want to use physical atoms, Becquerels, atomic decays per second. Radiation hotspots in Tokyo, 3.5 times the limit set by the Japan law that you're not allowed to argue about. Paper, it's hard to imagine something more frightening than 5-year-olds marching off to irradiated school playgrounds. Didn't I do a video about that one time? Probably no hope of finding that. Oh, yeah. I'm close. Close doesn't cut it, though, from what I understand. Oh. So they gave 90,000 children or something dosimeters that they can't count. They got to send it to the university in order to know what's on it. So the children and the families will never know. They gave them 90,000 to pregnant women and children. So rather than evacuate them, they gave them dosimeters that can't be read. And look, they got them showing it off. Now that same community had 3,000 Geiger counters installed. 3,000. Rather than move the victims out, they said, well, they're perfect guinea pigs. They're the perfect victims. You have to be pretty evil to do something like that, haven't you? Parts of a school, well, this is nuclear industry, so it comes with the territory. Parts of a school playground declared off limits after 0.25 microsieverts an hour detected 200 kilometers southeast of Fukushima. And the children and the staff must wear hats and gargle regularly. If you're gargling, like who the hell? I'd like to know who suggested that gargling water is going to fucking help you from radioactive fallout. It's like you're supposed to run away. You're not supposed to wear hats and gargle. That's not even voodoo stuff. Even the voodoo practitioners would laugh at that story. It doesn't make any sense. It was probably Rafael Grossi, though. Tokyo tea leaves with 2,700 atoms a kilogram of radioactive cesium picked by the elementary school children. That's the gallows laugh, right? It's hard to comprehend why the nuclear industry hates everything. They hate children the most, but they hate everything equally. Every species. They hate everything. Prime Minister, former advisor, the government's worsened the radiation exposure and says thyroid cancer expected in children from Fukushima and nearby prefectures. Indeed. What was the number on that again? Should I look for it? Yeah, let me look for it. I could find it. Let me take a second. In fact, I'd be remiss if I don't find it, won't I? Shame on Dana for not trying to find it. Jeez, you get the telephone book when you type in anything on my computer. We're close. Whoa, we're so close. I can feel it. 35.8% of the Fukushima children have thyroid tumors. Of 2 centimeters. So the adult thyroid gland is 3 by 5 centimeters. And that third line from the bottom. But the child's thyroid gland is very tiny. So like an adult with a 2 centimeter tumor, because that's what we're talking about, would be, that's a massive tumor on something that's only 3 by 5 centimeters, a 2 centimeter tumor, right? But a child's tumor, thyroid is tiny. So the 2 centimeter tumor basically is wrapping around the thyroid gland. So when you got 13,646 out of 40,000, 38,000, that's scaled up. That's 358,000 out of a million. But before this, 1 to 2 per million would have thyroid tumors. These are tumors. Like if it was anywhere else, it'd be considered very small, right? But the thyroid gland makes the hormones for your entire body on top of that. So for that to have tumors, it means that it's completely saturated. And by the time tumor shows up, it means your pituitary gland, which stores hormones by the way, is storing massive amount of all radioactive hormones. So you're not producing anything on your radioactive hormones at that stage. So yeah, they're expecting thyroid tumors. It's not just cancer. There's so many diseases because once you radiate the thyroid gland, it's producing radioactive hormones. That's the medical textbook you just opened up now for diseases and illnesses and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. And we are basically recreating Fukushima all over again. Clouds of radiation continue to across to the Pacific Northwest, to North America. And this is the incinerator, the other insane stories. Let me see if I can find something on that. I got a couple there. Right away, let's play them. Is the government trying to contaminate every region in Japan by burning radioactive debris? And that if everyone is contaminated in a relative sense, nobody is? It's 2012. 300 times more radiation released into the atmosphere from burning debris than claimed by the government. The Asian Pacific Journal, Volume 10, Issue 24, Number 6. 2012, Fukushima will start burning radioactive waste at 100,000 becquerels a kilogram, which is the same number for the 30 million one-ton bags. The criteria for putting radioactive topsoil into the bags and litter and foliage was 100,000 atoms per kilogram, which is a dirty bomb, right? They got 1 billion pounds of radiation debris in the exclusion zone to burn at 100,000 atoms, because you can't destroy the radiation, so you're going to liberate it back into the environment. Rather than dig tunnels and just put it down there and let it expire, because it's not like fuel rods or something, right? That would be the appropriate thing, right? For, if you can guarantee there was going to be no ingress of water going in there. Degenerate Gunnarsson on troubling events during the nuclear disaster. I hate Gunnarsson because he sold us out, right? He claimed that fuel pools were still on top of Reactor 4 and Reactor 3. Japan's secret promise with the United States to burn plutonium. The whole story is insane, folks. Fukushima plant will burn radioactive waste. The incinerators, all nuclear power plants have incinerators, are going to run around the clock. Researchers are too frightened to get closer than 100 kilometers from the meltdowns after seeing radiation levels. I've been quite shocked by the amount in 2011. School playground staircases radiation is 70 times the maximum allowed, far from the evacuation zone, equal to 69 millisieverts per year. 69,000 microsieverts. 69,000 microsieverts. 69,000 microsieverts. So, let's do the math on that. 69,000 microsieverts. 69,000 multiplied by 750 atoms per microsievert is 51 million atoms, 52 million atoms. So the dosage the children are getting is equal to 52 million atoms in their body. Each atom is destroying DNA and chromosomes and cells. Your body has to try to repair that every second. It's pulsing 59 million pulses a second. You can't clean up a nuclear fallout. High school, 7.9 microsieverts an hour. Daycare, 7.1 microsieverts an hour. See, you don't clean up these schools and nurseries and daycares, you evacuate. And that's what nuclear, it's either you evacuate them or they're going to kill you and your loved ones. 75% of the Fukushima 300,000 children are going to school so contaminated there'd be radiation control areas in the nuclear plant. But no. Rafael Grossi said everything is best kind. Who are you going to believe? All the media reports from the original accident? Or Rafael Grossi? Mr. Jet Setter, superstar, supervillain. An actual supervillain. Professor in Oregon paper, radiation in Fukushima exceeds Chernobyl, now at levels unknown to humans or machines. Human rights violations? Duh. Oh, no. No, Mr. Dana. Rafael Grossi says everything is hunky-dory. You're a liar, Dana. Liar. Dana, liar. Picking on Grossi. He's just trying to do something good, Dana. He's just a demon. There's lots of demons. Rafael is just no different. Except he actually is. He's destroying humanity and the 8 million species. Does anybody really think this is a game? Does anybody understand the importance, how late it is, how far down the friggin' rabbit hole we actually are? It's a demon, right? An actual real-life demon. So Rafael Grossi says nothing got out of the buildings. Nothing. Nothing got out of the buildings. Nothing. They had all the journalists went there, Dana, certified. Look. Those journalists are 150 feet above the wreckage. The invisible wreckage. I mean, the buildings blew up. But nothing got out. Yeah, they blew up, but nothing got out, Dana. And whatever did get out, of course, like a banana, walking sunshine, flying on an airplane, Dana. Well, you gotta make such shit out of nothing, Dana. Because I give a shit about you and your loved ones and your friends and your families. This was Harvard University right after the nuclear meltdown. They had their team of experts, nuclear experts. And this is 2 short videos where they're talking about the doses around the site. Now at the time, that's what the site looked like, right? Let's hear them out, because this is actually interesting stuff.
And you know well at Chernobyl, the helicopter pilots that came in and that deposited the heavy materials to try to put down that fire, which all died from radiation exposure. Here's the decision question.
Oops, I smurfed up. Hang on. It's the same video, it's just a different spot I'm thinking about. Here we go. We're there. So he's talking about measurements, millisieverts and microsieverts.
And in the US context, we think of rem, and I assume in the Japanese context, people would think of sievert. The fatal dose from whole body exposure, median dose is around 350, 400 rem, or 3.5 to 4 sievert.
Delivered pretty quickly.
Delivered over a period of hours, but in that case, death would follow over subsequent weeks.
Okay, and then he also articulated about what TEPCO was doing by talking about microsieverts and millisieverts.
But that gives you an indication of the sort of hazard that you're concerned. So a few sieverts, if the dose looks as though it'll be more than 2 or 3 sieverts over a period of plume passage, for example, then you know that you're in a potentially lethal situation. Whereas speaking in microsieverts is not helpful.
So the plume coming over at several sieverts was a lethal dose. In the plumes, in the communities, where they told you to shelter in the place. This is why you don't want to shelter in the place. There was 3,000 people died. They tried to blame that on the evacuations. But I mean, we've seen tens of millions, like 15 million is the big number, evacuate because of cyclones. And we've seen 6 and 7 million in America at a time evacuate because of hurricanes, supercell hurricanes. And we've seen, up to 10 million in China and other tropical places for typhoons. We've never seen thousands of people dropping dead like we did after Fukushima. And that's what they're trying to blame it. They were trying to blame it on stress. And so trying to using microsieverts and millisieverts after a nuclear accident, like the food, what they're putting in the bag is not measured in there's 30 million one-ton bags, and what they're putting in the bags is not measured in microsieverts or millisieverts, it's measured in physical atoms. But Rafael Grossi got a whole lot of people like him out there. This is a professor at the Department of Nuclear Quantum Engineering at CAS, which is a major prestigious institute in South Korea. Young Jong-il, a professor at the Department of Nuclear and Quantum Engineering. And as we know now, that's the worst person you can trust as a professor. They're guaranteed to cut your throat. They're the ones that's going to cut your throat. So they're saying that 1.37 million tons of wastewater, yeah, it has about 2.2 grams of tritium, but everything that went into the ocean was equal to 3 grams of sugar. So the buildings are only equal to 3 grams of sugar, and they picked up 30 million one-ton bags because that's equal to 3 grams of sugar. And Rafael Grossi is refusing to acknowledge this happened. Rafael Grossi is suggesting nothing happened. Everything is in the tanks, the same as, because this story came out in July the 13th, 2023, last year. And on August the 24th, that's when they allegedly first release. But clearly, this release has been going on for 13 years. You don't pick up 30 million one-ton bags and say there's no releases. But this is exactly what they've done. And only the people that buy into their story are put in the media. They're encouraging it, right? They want to create this blowback of tritium. They don't want anybody talking about the real stuff, right? And Stinkfoot is supposed to be coming after me. So there's once last year and once this year, Japan has called me up live on the show and said they got Stinkfoot now, and he's going to beat me up. And I should be scared. I should shiver and shake in my boots. They don't seem to realize I don't give a shit about Stinkfoot or anybody else. I'm not afraid of anybody in the nuclear industry. All I got to do is clap my hands. They're going to shit in their pants. Because their whole ideology is predicated upon deceit and dishonesty. Mine is based upon facts and documentation only. I don't live in a fantasy. You know, I put this picture together, and I remember, it was a long time ago, it was 9 years ago or something, 10 years ago. And I was saying to myself, you know, that's the 4 sides of reactor 4. But yet people are out there, and they're lawyers. There's no one in their right mind looks at this information and says that the fuel pools are still in the buildings. That's 4 sides of reactor 4. That's the only picture I know of that exists, and I had to make it myself. You know, Fukushima contaminated soil was 105,000 sites, storage sites, 105,000. But the official story is nothing got out of these buildings. Nothing got out. And anybody says they did, that's fear-mongering. And like Ernie Gunnarsson made the racks for the fuel assemblies in the fuel pools at the top of the buildings. So I put those 2 pictures behind him, and he's refusing to acknowledge the building looks like this. Because he's refusing to acknowledge the fuel pools are gone. The fuel pools are at the very top of the buildings.
Now, the division I ran built nuclear fuel racks for boiling water reactors exactly like Fukushima. And Unit 4 has always been my biggest concern. If you watched our website, on the very first week of the accident, I was saying that if Unit 4 were to catch fire, you'd have to evacuate Tokyo.
Well, reactor 4 is to your right. It's clearly gone, see? And reactor 3 is gone. So they built this contraption and then claimed that they were in the fuel pool and getting the fuel out of the pool. Like they done at reactor 4. They claimed they were getting the fuel out of the pool. So they faked both of them and got away with it. And they put these contraptions on top of it. They built off-site. And then claimed that they were in the buildings getting the fuel out of the pool. And if the 2 rods touch, everything's going to go bang and kiss your ass goodbye, right? But reactor 3 was just like reactor 4. The fuel was at the top of the building. That's the original footage to your left. So there wasn't a single academic on the planet that looked at it and didn't know the fuel pool and reactors were gone. And we've never heard from a single one of them. And Ernie Gunnarsson made the assemblies for 70 identical reactors. They're the racks for the assemblies, which goes in the fuel pools. He made those assemblies for 70 plants in the United States that are identical to Fukushima, the boiling water reactor Mark IV reactors. Explosion may have occurred inside the vessel of the Fukushima Unit 1. Can generate missiles, which is the assemblies are around 1,800 pounds. You're talking about 100 fuel rods that are 12 feet long and 18 pounds each. So around 1,800 pounds for the assemblies. That's what we're talking about. Well, let's look at reactor 4. Now, I showed you the pictures of all sides of reactor 4. Reactor 4 is in your top left hand. It's completely gone. There is nothing. That was a 190 foot, 65 meter, 19-story building. Nuclear explosion at number 3 had black smoke, mushroom cloud. Hydrogen doesn't produce black smoke. And hydrogen, the explosion at Fukushima Unit 3 drove the fuel out of the storage pool and scattered it up to 2 miles away. You can see the flame. Curium and plutonium outside of Fukushima plant. So in relationship to cesium-137, curium and plutonium isotopes, because the reactors are uranium-235 and plutonium that they created to help it fission, right? But it now it's a breeder reactor where it produces up to 1,000 different types of isotopes. Every one of them are man-made, and every one of them are capable of causing serious illnesses and diseases to everything with replicating cells, because nothing on the planet has an autoimmune trigger that can deal with the man-made isotopes. So the man-made isotopes, the uranium and plutonium are splitting atoms, right? And the atoms we're talking about are uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium. And that's what's boiling water for 1 million homes, with these 1,000 fission products. And the majority of them are very short-lived. But they're high energy, and they're very, very... The damage is forever when it's into your body. Military units severely contaminated when reactor 3 exploded. Too radioactive to stand next to each other. Well, if Rafael Grossi was around at that time, they probably would have grabbed him and jumped on the reactor core just to get rid of Rafael Grossi, right? The journalists felt the explosion of number 3 plant from 25 miles away. 25 miles away. For reactor 3, which is to your left. And there's nothing left to the building. There's just this stump. Right? There's just that stump, the original stump. Doomsday-like radiation. Doomsday-like radiation for the whole planet. It would be a global catastrophe if a fire in the pool at Unit 4. That's 2012. In 2012, that's what Reactor 4 was looking like. So you see what I mean? But the media is so hateful. It's so disconnected. It's so evil to do that kind of stuff. Radioactive xenon-133 in Washington, it'll burn a hole through your lungs and ends up in your bones of your children and the elderly and everybody else and all the species, was 450,000 times above detection levels, persisted for weeks. University of Texas researchers, Fukushima release was so great the radioactive aerosols in Washington were up to 100,000 times normal. United States particulate and xenon measurements made following the Fukushima reactor accident. And you can actually go to the PDF, just type in that information, go to the PDF file and read it yourself. Right? Just type in that link right there. It's all right there for you. The fuel rods at reactor number 2 reactor were fully exposed. The third explosion was feared. Which, well, if they're exposed, they're melting right away. The zirconium cladding immediately catches fire when it's in the air. It's hard to comprehend it. So the zirconium that they're using for the cladding is the same zirconium that they used to use for flash bulbs. Try wrapping your mind around that statement. So go back to the 1920s and 30s, when they first had these big camera boxes, mobile boxes, and you can just go around and snap a picture, right? That was big technology back then. And the flash they had a little hammer in the flash. So the hammer would break the glass, oxygen rushes in, the flash goes off, and when the flash goes off, then you push the button to snap the picture. So you have two buttons, one to break the glass, and then the second one to get the picture, because there was a slight delay. But everybody that was in that room or in that area got poisoned by zirconium from each one of those flashes. And then he would take it out and throw it down on the ground. This is maniacs, right? And there would be this huge puff of smoke, and it would cover everybody with zirconium. So cancer would have skyrocketed, for instance, and diseases and illnesses would have skyrocketed during that period. And they knew what they were doing on top of that. Nuclear industry is a curse. It's just a curse. Everywhere you look at it, it does everything it can to destroy your fresh water. The most precious resource we got is all our water is the most precious resource. We should fight tooth and nail to protect our fresh water and our salt water. Like, that's our life. How many people out there can survive without water? Not counting Rafael Grossi. This is a disaster all humanity, the entire world. It's an international level, huge consequences, now bigger than anything they can cope with. So there were people trying to warn you, but nuclear engineer could have said, hey, the fuel pools are gone. They would have never got a job ever again, but at least we would have tried to come up with solutions. Huge spray of radioactive material from the plant contained plutonium. Reactor number 4, we done the math on reactor 4, fuel pools. It was roughly 21,000 pounds of plutonium. 2 pounds is enough to poison everybody on the planet, apparently. 21,000 is enough to wreck the planet permanently. Official death ashes obviously dispersed everywhere after recent Fukushima releases. Hot particles attaches to the clothes, and the media is brainwashing the public. Nuclear engineering, huge spray of radioactive material from the plant containing that plutonium which is probably that headline right here. Yeah. Japan doctor, completely beyond comprehension how huge the contamination of the ocean will be. Fukushima radioactive material is poured in landfills to enter the sea. It's spreading over the whole world. This model up in the top left-hand corner is just 20 days of radioactive fallout. Melted reactor core will burn again if water is not perpetually poured in. TEPCO proposes dumping some of them to the ocean. That's 2013. But the video from the BBC clearly shows that the tanks were filled in 2013. Right? I played that earlier. And I played it last night, the night before, and I'll probably play it every night for the rest of my life. Because that's the evidence we desperately needed, right? Discharges of Fukushima nuclear material into the Pacific have effectively contaminated the sea already. The melted reactor cores will burn again if water is not perpetually poured in. Fukushima reactor cores like 1 and 2, reactor 1 and reactor 2, maybe reactor 6, and maybe the common spent fuel pool, melted right down into the ground. And that radioactive material is getting washed out into the Pacific. And that was the aquifer. They built all these sites on top of aquifers. All the nuclear dumps are built on top of the biggest aquifers in that part of the country. Right, the criteria for the site is massive aquifers so they can have reactors on the site. If you melt down, you don't find it because it goes down into the aquifers, which typically feed tens of thousands of farms downstream. They hate us. They absolutely hate us. They hate insects. They hate the birds. They hate puppies. They really hate puppies. Work at Fukushima Unit 4 is a distraction. BBC, 2013. The real nightmare is coming from Reactor 3 molten cores. Reactor 3 totally ejected the reactor cores and the fuel pools. The melted fuel is all over the place. Well, the remains of it are. The first goal is simply to stop the uncontrolled releases of radioactive material. They didn't even try. They just hit it up and then they poisoned you and they continue to grow food in the nuclear wastelands. Billions of pounds a year and shipping it worldwide to destroy everybody's health so you were too weak to oppose them. The industry is insane. And this little tiny voice with a very tiny tiny, tiny, tiny group of supporters. We're just hanging on by our fingernails trying to keep this operation moving forward. Every day is a struggle, right? We have nothing to work with. So slowly I've built up the operation, but we don't have jack shit to maintain it or run the operation. We're dependent upon just a handful of people, and I truly mean it, right? Tabitha G donated $50 yesterday. I forgot to mention it, so if I don't mention it, I might forget again tonight. I was burnt out last night. I forgot about a lot of things, and it was just for an hour and 40 minutes. But the thing is, like, you know, I try to do 5 shows a week. I'm pretty good at it. Getting to 5 shows in every week. It's very difficult. But I'm just trying to keep the story alive until the world comes to its senses. I know the world will come to its senses. So my idea is, I'm not the best person for the job. I'm not this. I'm just a man, blah, blah, blah. But as long as I can keep the story fresh, as long as somebody's on the planet telling the story each day, showing the documentation and the urgency and the deceit and dishonesty and deception, because it's endless every single day from the nuclear industry. Every single story on the nuclear industry, every single day is full of propaganda and lies. Every story. And we usually try to challenge the news cycle as often as we can each week. Shockwave visible during explosions, but nothing got out, Dana. Rafael Grossi said so. Significant failure of the containment. Dana, Rafael Grossi, he's flying first class all around the world, so who am I going to believe? You got nothing, Dana. He's got it all, so why would I believe you? He's staying in $10,000 night hotel rooms, Dana. You're not, Dana. He's drinking Perrier water and he's hobnobbing with the richest society. You're not, Dana. Why should I believe you? He's got $5,000 suit and $500 underwear and dirty underwear at that, Dana. You don't. And so everybody, right, turns to this fictional, I don't know how to describe him. He's sort of a monster. He's super villain, right? Significant failure of containment inferred by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission after first explosions. Because there's a lot of people out there who believes wealth is truth, right? Wealth is facts. Wealth is honesty. Wealth has a moral compass. And so they fell into this trap, and the media will just use them as a stick to bludgeon reality. China syndrome might just have happened at FukushimaTimes.com. Multi-fuel may have melted through everything into the earth. Of course it was a China syndrome. Any nuclear academic on the entire planet who looked at pictures of the reactors, the original footage, knew right away that was China syndromes, including Reactor 2. They knew right away that was China syndromes. Associated Press reveals doubts by the nuclear experts. The fuel is no longer there. Measuring temperatures of empty cores are meaningless. So you get these random tidbits of honesty, right? Government reports suggest the situation is far worse than a meltdown. It is the worst possible in a nuclear accident. Right? And government report to International Atomic Energy Agency suggests situation worse than meltdowns. Well, why is anybody talking to the International Atomic Energy Agency? They're not even a regulatory agency. They don't have any sovereignty over any country. Is every country too stupid to do their own ABCs? Right, the International Atomic Energy Agency's job is to promote nuclear. That's it. That's what they're all about. And then because they're United Nations and everybody's lulled into complacency because they're a big organization, but International Atomic Energy Agency can only exist because of Japan is their third biggest donor, for instance. If I had a couple of countries backing me up, nuclear would be dead. I'd kill nuclear right quick. I got what it takes to kill nuclear, that's for sure. I'd wake this fucking planet up in a hurry if I had a venue. You'd be surprised what I can bring to the table. Government reports suggest situation is far worse than a meltdown. It's the worst possible. Number one, nuclear plant is melted through the pressure of vessels, accumulated at the bottom of the other containment vessels. No, it's gone right deep into the earth, you traitor. Each reactor holds 3,450 spent fuel assemblies. Let's do the math on that. I like math. Don't you like math? Talking about math. Number two here. 3,450 assemblies. Hang on. Calculator, please. 3,450, was it? Can't remember. Yeah, 3,450. Spent fuel assemblies. So each assembly has 100 fuel rods. Each rod is 18 feet and weighs, or 12 feet and weighs 18 pounds. So 1,800 pounds times 1,800. That's like 50 pounds or something, is it? That's 6,200,000 pounds, Dana. So if that's, and now we know the fuel pools are stuffed because they don't have a repository anywhere on the planet, which is probably double those numbers. That's true for all of these boiling water reactors, by the way, because nobody has a repository for that kind of fuel, right? So sitting in fuel pools. Fuel pools are splitting atoms and they're boiling off each about 120,000 liters a day. And each liter is lethal doses for 1 billion people. Eventually, right? It catches up to the insects, the birds, the biotas. So 4/6 is just 24 million pounds, just 4 buildings. And we know 4 buildings are gone. Lord knows we know that much. But it's actually much worse than that. So their official numbers, though, their official number is 900 assemblies times 1,800 pounds of all 4 buildings. Right, because they whittle away the numbers because most people have no concept. The nuclear industry is not going to correct them. Media is not going to correct them. So the real number is around 24 million pounds. But it's probably double that. Because you don't have a repository, right? Not quite where I want it to be. Let's go back to this way. There we go. Is the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi a supervillain? Oh, yes, he is, Dana. Yes, he is. U.S. media only mentioned reports about melt-through at number 1, not number 2 and number 3. Up to 1 million sieverts per hour outside of reactor number 1 containment vessel. So they're talking about inside the reactor building. Outside the containment vessel is 1 million sieverts per hour in Unit 1. So currently they says they're going to go in Unit 1 and get the fuel up because it's not too bad. But 1 million sieverts don't go away. 3 sieverts, by the way, is a lethal dose, right? As Harvard University articulated about 15, 20 minutes ago for you. So when they're talking about the containment vessel, you're talking about inside the building. Still too hot to attempt measuring other areas. Still too hot. 1 million sieverts. You're not even going close to the building. That's a lethal dose. Just if you got the fastest man in the world run past the building, he drops dead in a few minutes with those kind of numbers. Video is believed to show parts of the internal structure in Fukushima Unit 1 containment vessel scattered around. 3-inch thick lead plate disappeared. Well, there is, as far as I know, there's no video inside of these buildings. Well, reactor 3 and 4 were completely demolished with the detonations, right? Japan leader in 311. Most don't know it, but reactor 1 melted down in 5 hours. And we almost lost 1/3 of the nation due to Fukushima. And so what they're suggesting is if reactor 3 and 4 had melted down, they would have evacuated Tokyo. But clearly, reactor 3 and floor melted. 3 and floor. What the hell is a floor, Dana? I don't know. Reactor 3 and 4 are right there. They're clearly gone. Another number, 225 sieves per hour, reactor 1. These are lethal doses by orders of magnitude. Nuclear engineer proof that the fuel fragments were sneezed out of Unit 1 Fukushima reactor into the torus. Again, this is meant to manipulate you. It was 100% meltdown of the fuel pools and the reactor cores. Impossible that the bulk of the melted fuel is in Unit 1, but Rafael Grossi says everything's hunky-dory. You can eat off the floor of Reactor 3, Dana. Why should I believe you, Dana? Rafael Grossi flies all around the world in first class. And he eats only at the best restaurants. He hobnobs with the wealthiest people in the country. He wears $5,000 fucking suits, Dana. You're a nobody, Dana. I've heard these said to me, like different variations of it over the years. Why should we believe you, Dana? Well, because I provide all the evidence to back up all my assertions. And I give a shit. Unlike the International Atomic Energy Agency, they don't give a shit. And they were informed in March that the number 1 reactor core melted after about 50 minutes. And there was a melted pile of fuel in 3.5 hours. It's melting, in order for it to melt, it's going to hit around 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. It's not going to pile up when it gets out of the containment. It's going to melt straight down into the earth. We don't have anything that contains 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Yeah? This is one of my favorite ones. Japan government agency compares radioactive material to an angry and agitated wife fighting with her husband. Again, the Japanese are disgusting people, right? Anyway, how are we doing here? It's been a tough week. I think I'll just call it quits here. I almost got 30 thumbs up. I had 30 thumbs up when the show was over last night, and noon today I still had 30 thumbs up. That was a good video last night. When you see a video not do very good, that's a good video. They're usually good videos. Good information, right? It might not be good because I was burnt out last night. I distinctly remember being burned out long before the show started, but I was like, I'm doing the show. I don't give a fuck. The buildings blow up, nothing got out. They got abandoned all the community, nothing got out. Picked up 30 million one-ton bags, nothing got out. But you picked up 30 million one-ton bags, nothing got out. The buildings are completely destroyed, yeah, but nothing got out, though. We fix it. You have 30 million one-ton bags, nothing got out. Stop fear-mongering. Yeah, but the buildings blew up, nothing got out, though. Nothing got out. But the model of smaller countries with studies to back them up shows the whole planet covered in radiation in about 20 days. Now, but nothing got out. Have a nice day. They got every journalist on the planet at their beck and call. They don't even have to try. They're happy to put out propaganda. Everybody knew to go out and get on one knee and kiss Rafael Grossi's ring today. It was really a spectacle to see everybody out sucking up to Rafael Grossi. I was just a monster. Well, it's easy to know who the monsters are. They work for the International Atomic Energy Agency, right? And then, of course, the king of the international, the head chef of the International Atomic Energy, who cooks up all the stories. They call him a chief, but he's actually a chef because he cooks up all these stories, right? Committed to monitoring the Fukushima water released to the last drop, to the very, 10,000 years or something, before the last drop stops coming out of that place. Think about how evil you got to be Rafael Grossi, to go around telling everybody, no, Mr. Dana, everything is totally number one, everything is wonderful, birds. Everything totally wonderful. You're a liar, Dana, Mr. Dana, you're a liar. I'm just another demon, said Rafael Grossi. Demon, 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 demon. Is the International Atomic Energy Agency's Director General Rafael Grossi a supervillain? He's actually a supervillain. That's a supervillain. What he's doing, and the evidence you've seen tonight, no matter how fraction it was, all over the place tonight, my apologies. Been a weird week. But that's a super friggin' villain, isn't it? That's a super villain. Blah, 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 blah. Super villain. Let me get out of this here. Back to the normal madness. Gonna end the poll. I got 32 votes. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see that everybody agrees. Yeah, good night, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'm not going to be back unless there's a breaking story. I'll do a shout out. Is that what you want? Daryl Murray, because we got the long song on tonight. I won't have to play my songs twice tonight. Daryl Murray. Hi, Daryl. Thank you. Peaceware. Vast Tinker. Don Vincent, Dana Nasana, hey buddy. Rock Port Angeles. James Lucid. Ooh, sent a PayPal. Bless your heart. Woohoo! I needed one desperately too, man. Good man. Amazing. And then extra hugs for Tabitha G, who shipped off $50 to me. I forgot to mention last night. I just like to let people know that I received it, because I don't trust the industry. I've been around a long time, good time. Something's in the water. And just scooting up. I know Stephen Young is out there. I'm really excited. Stephen Young is getting the infusions starting next week. I got high hopes. That's going to give him some relief and restore some parts of his life. Because sick or not sick, he's been here non-stop. Still supporting us strongly as he can. And he's lovely, of course. And difficult times still there, standing tall. And Stephen Young used to write all these senators in CC the replies back to me. And it was terrible, right? But he never gave up. He always tried, right? Charles Sand, you're welcome, Charles. Nuke 0. I guess Stephen Young is here. Look at that. Another CG. I'll come down to the most recent comments here in a second. Chad. 1 ton bags of poo, Chad? Yeah, go down and call it poo to the victims. Call it. We're almost through. I can do it that way. That's a little easier for everybody. Albert, Richard. The planet can only handle so much meltdowns. Why not? Can only handle ongoing core meltdowns to a point. That would make a good t-shirt, actually. Might have to modify it a little bit. But half my t-shirts are from James Lucid's comments up at my website. Half my t-shirts. Or that's not it. I think that's my Rumble. Right here. Half of my t-shirts are from James Lucid's comments. James had a lot. I got a whole list of them in a folder there. Shock and Horror, UN Cops 28 promotes nuclear. And you even get, those mugs are great too, right? Just to get a conversation going. Let me see, where's Calm Down Charlie to? Oh, there it is, Calm Down Charlie. Hey, we're up to 274 is the official number right now, Calm Down Charlie t-shirts. And the long sleeve shirts is one of my best sellers. You can get them in different colors. And we got some famous one-liners by Calm Down Charlie. Yoshida Mishada, Tokyo Bill, in Chicago, also known as Calm Down Charlie. Some of his famous one-liners are, "You scammer, you filthy lord, you sick bastard." Everybody here is pretty familiar with those one-liners. And so, in honor of Calm Down Charlie, I think we should do an anniversary shirt for the 13th anniversary, the weekend maybe. And you can get all the sizes and colors, and then the same thing with the t-shirts. Yoshida Mashada, that's the front of it, that side. Tokyo Byo, you sick bastard. And we got a nice pink for the girls. There, guys, if you like pink, that's your thing. We got blue and royal, and we got good variety of sizes. We got them so big you can make dresses out of them if you want to. Just cut them up and resew them in the dresses after. And that's my best sellers, is Calm Down Charlie t-shirts. 274. Unbelievable, eh? How good that shirt is. Unfortunately, I only make $1 off each shirt. Fukushima radioactive fallout, an extinction level event. That's one of my favorite shirts right there too. An extinction level event. And if people say, well, what are you talking about? Will you see the fallout in the green? That's an extinction event, kiddies. Government radiation levels in the U.S. West Coast spiked to 1 million times normal, 1 million to 10 million of cesium. So that's a really important one, because that's the study from France's government of 1 million to 10 million atoms. And it shows you the 2 destroyed reactors with the iconic Fukushima nuclear fallout extinction level event. Some good stuff. They're going to ding you for the taxes. They're going to ding you for the shipping. They're probably going to be slow on top of that, but it's worth it. Brody Love, Port Angeles. Sorry I didn't get your shout at that time, sweetie. Let me finish up here, because I'm just wasting time. I hate leaving early. So I managed to waste another 5 minutes anyway. John Shiflett. I'm really going to quit now, though. I swear, honest to goodness. The Wise Person. Yeah, they're going to get me. Stinkfoot's coming for me. Oh, I'm so scared. The music's still playing in the background. Gotta love it. All right, I'll give it up. Have a great night. See everybody on Sunday, unless there's an emergency. So if you see me popping up with a video, on a live stream or something like that, pay attention, because I'm not going to be here because I'm bored. Because I'm too tired to be bored. Maybe not, though. I just don't want to wear them. I used to do it 7 days a week. If I was on land, I was doing the show 7 days a week. It was relentless, year after year after year after year. Have a great night. We'll see everybody on the next show. If you can donate, folks, consider donating. There's 2 links in the bottom of the description. Both of them are directly to my PayPal account and to my website. So you know you're donating directly to me. And just even $10, $20 goes a long way. Make no mistake about it. Have a great night. We'll see everybody on the other side. Take care, folks.